Sir, I do not want to give any examples, but I should like to say a word about the agricultural program before I come to close my remarks. Now, it has been said here that while stress has been laid on the agricultural program, both in the community development and national extension service blocks, yet these blocks are suffering from shortage both of seeds and fertilizers. Now, sir, it is surprising that though it is realized in theory that our plans can succeed only in proportion as our agricultural program succeeds, an all out effort has not been made to provide the blocks with the means necessary for increasing the yield of agriculture, which are so indispensable for agricultural development. Now, sir, if we fail even in these blocks, where else can we hope to succeed? We have our officers here who are charged with the task of looking after certain areas, and yet the result is disappointing. It may be said, sir, that government for no fault of its own is unable to supply these things in adequate quantities. Then I suggest, sir, that the work should be concentrated in smaller areas so that it may yield such results as to make people living in other areas offer their help for their development. Sir, I shall make no quotations because I want to close my remarks very soon. But I should like to refer to the conclusions which have been stated in chapter 6 of the report before us. I said just now, sir, that if there is shortage of seeds and fertilizers, then it is obvious that for achieving the best results, the work should be concentrated in smaller areas. The report says much the same thing. It says that the study shows that the average block is 25% larger than the program's norms in terms of population, and that the large blocks do not have proportionately larger personnel and finance. It is on the whole having shorter blocks, but where the blocks have to be larger in order to fit in with the present administrative divisions, the committee recommends that the block personnel and finance should be proportionately increased in such cases. Again, sir, to guard against waste of effort, the report recommends that the blocks should be increased in number only as the supply of personnel who could work in these blocks increases. The report very rightly lays stress on this point and says that the status of the block development officer and his qualifications should be higher than they are at present. Unless you have said this, the checking will not be very reliable. You appoint a committee to evaluate the work that has not been done, but that committee will have to depend on the statistics collected by the block development officers and their assistants. And the committee says that checking on the spot is at present extremely inadequate. Most of the checking is done at the desk of the block development officer and not on the spot in the villages. It goes further to say that the figures are known to be satisfied by Gram Sevaks, sometimes at the instance of certain specialties. I do not want to go on with that story further. I have referred to these things in order to show how much effort has to be made in order to make our community development blocks and national extension service work successfully. We have to concentrate our effort in view of the shortage of indispensable material for getting that material and for getting men of such status as can be fully trusted by us. Now, sir, in order to have really a proper organization and in order to see that the officers concerned with these development blocks work, I think it is necessary that the collector should be invited to take personal interest in these areas. Relieve the collector of his other duties and entrust him with the work to be done in connection with development, that is planning work. This is at present far more important than the routine administrative work in the states. If you do this, I think you will be able to achieve much greater success than it has been done so far. My honorable friend regarded it as a disadvantage that education, cooperation, transport and communications should all come under the same officer. I personally think, sir, that it is in the interest of the villagers that all these things should be looked to by the same set of officers. And if you have the collector of a district as the head of this organization in his district and charge him with the special duty of seeing that the community development and national extension service work is carried out in accordance with the program, I am sure that much better results will be achieved than have been achieved so far. Sir, I welcome this occasion to participate in this debate. Great expectations have been raised in the minds of people with regard to this movement. Sir, we have discussed many times in the past the problems of small industries, but the present is somewhat different from the previous occasions. We meet today in a different situation, in a different climate, in very compelling circumstances where the supreme need of the hour seems to be the economic mobilization of the country to meet a growing and mounting emergency. So, sir, this hour makes a significant impact on any discussion that we undertake. Today, I take it we are engaged in transforming an altogether peacetime economy into a wartime economy. This is an occasion when every sector of industry and trade should respond to the mounting and pressing demands of the growing emergency. The seriousness of the situation is that if we fail in the economy, we will also fail in the war effort and ultimately in the war itself. Therefore, there cannot be, to my mind, any neglect in any aspect of our economy. Sir, I would like to discuss this motion today in this background of economic mobilization, keeping in view the growing and enveloping emergency. There has been a tendency in the past to overrate the importance of big industries. Big industries are essential, indeed, they are important. We cannot do without them. But in the process of overrating the importance of the big industries or the heavy industries, we are apt to forget the importance of the small industries and the role that they have to play in the national economy. Sometimes, perhaps our friends may take it that small scale industries are not of much consequence, and if that thinking were still to persist in our minds, I must say it is very dangerous indeed and we should avoid it. Sir, to me, small scale industries can play a very far reaching role in placing the economy of the country on an even level, whether in peacetime or in wartime, and the government and the various agencies that are set up by the government should provide proper facilities and create the conditions necessary for their growth. But what do we find today? What is the picture of small scale industries in India? I am afraid I have to be a bit critical of the state of affairs in spite of the fact that some steps have been taken to repair the damage that was caused in the past. There have been in the past a variety of conferences and seminars and enquiries, and there has been a voluminous material built up, and also I admit that the ministry has shown all along boundless sympathy to small entrepreneurs, but unfortunately the fact remains that small scale industries have not advanced even at the rate of the overall growth of the economy. This point has been missed on more than one occasion by government. May I say in this connection that in 1960, the proportionate share contributed by the small scale and cottage industries to the national income was 10%, whereas the corresponding figure in 1980 was only 80%. This means the small scale sector has not kept pace with the general growth of the economy. It has yet to develop the momentum needed for a successful takeoff. Sir, the report of the Organizational Committee for Small-Scale Industries submitted in January 1982 contains certain recommendations, but I am afraid these recommendations do not go far. Perhaps the inquiry made by the committee was very narrow and limited. Perhaps it was meant to review mainly the functioning of the various agencies operating in this field. No doubt I must admit that whatever the recommendations they have made are worthwhile, though in certain instances I must say they are very vague. But most of the recommendations refer to administrative and organizational matters, and they do not touch the fundamental problems facing in the industry. Sir, before I deal with the fundamental problems, I would like to dilate upon a few recommendations for a while and point out how important even they are for the growth and expansion of the small sector. One important recommendation made is that each state should have an advisory committee to coordinate the activities of the center and the states. In the past, there was no machinery to bring about such a coordination and demarcation of functions. Perhaps this lacuna will be filled up by setting up these advisory committees in the various states. They have also made a recommendation that each state should have a small industries corporation. One of the important functions of the corporation would be to regulate the supply of raw materials. As you know, one of the biggest problems of these small industries is that they do not get raw material, and even if they get it, they do not get it in time, in adequate quantities and at reasonable prices, and there is no assurance that the supply of raw material will be maintained regularly.